Yeah, to be a little bit nostalgic, if I go back in time to my youth, we used to always have the seder with my grandfather, and I clearly recall, vividly remember when my grandfather, after Yachatz, he'd break the middle matzah, put it away. He'd always announce that this is the part for the Afikoimen, and this is the part that we're going to save, we're going to eat on the seder. Will be Zeichel Levi, he used to always say, and then he would begin, everyone please stand up. Of course, he would say it in Yiddish, because that's what he spoke. Everyone please stand up, uncover the matzahs, and he would begin, Ha Lachma Anya, di achla avasana b'ara de Mitzrayim, kol dichvin yesei v'yechot, kol ditzrich yesei v'yivsach. We would say it together, the entire Ha Lachma Anya, and then of course, in order to Zeicher to the Ganenets, we would go back and make sure to sing it as well. If you think about it though, this particular way, this preamble, the kickoff of the Seder is a very peculiar, strange, and interesting paragraph to start the Seder with Bichlal. It seems very much out of place. And there are a lot of questions to just understand the basic shot. What are we saying on the one hand? And on a deeper level, why is it here? In order to do such a thing, perhaps for the next few minutes, we'll ask a number of questions. Understand the historical context of Ha Lachma Anya. How did it get here? Where did it come from? And more importantly, to understand Al Derech Machshava, what the message of Ha Lachma Anya and how it really sets the tone. It frames the entire night of the Seder. If you think about it, Ha Lachma Anya is very weird. It's in Aramaic, not Hebrew. The rest of the Haggadah, if you flip ahead, you flip back, either way you go, it doesn't matter. The rest of the Haggadah is all in Lashon HaKodesh. It's all in Hebrew, according to Psukim, according to Drushes, but it's all in very standard Hebrew, in Lashon HaKodesh. How come we start Magid, Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, we begin it all, the kickoff is some strange paragraph in Aramaic. Seems out of place. It seems weird, strange. Why not Hebrew? And furthermore, if you were inviting somebody to your house, you were having guests for Shabbos, so I have a great idea. You'll go home after shul, Friday night, everyone will sit down at the meal, the family will sit down, you'll make kiddush. Oh, we forgot the guys in shul, let's go back to shul, we'll invite them. Yeah, that's going to make them feel really good, right? They're going to come waltzing into the house feeling like $1 million. It's a late invitation. What are you doing? You forgot about the guests? You should have invited them all the way back in the beginning, before Kiddush. You already started the Seder. Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. We're in the 5th step already. You want to invite the people in, called Dichvin Yesev Yechel, called Ditzrich Yesev Yivsach, invite them from the beginning. Also, halachically, it's very strange. How are we even allowed to invite anyone now? Hare, in order to have the Korban Pesach, you have to have a chabur. You have a group of people, a family, a unit together that decide, Erev Pesach, we are going together to go shech the Korban Pesach. We're a chabura, and you have to remain part of your chabura from the beginning to the end. No one's allowed to leave the chabura, no one's allowed to join the chabura. However, when it comes to Seder night, we're sitting down to the Seder. This Korban was already shechted in the middle of the day. The Korban was already shechted a few hours ago. And now we're coming in the middle of the night. We're about to eat the Korban Pesach. We're getting ready to eat the Korban Pesach. Now we're inviting people. You can't even, it's not even shaykh halachically to invite anyone now. Hooray, they're not part of the chabura. Either they were, they weren't. It's too late. You're behind the times. If you flip to the end of Ha Lachma Anya, there's another very strange thing. We end off Ha Lachma Anya, Hashta hacha l'shana haba be'ara d'Yisrael. It's a double lashon. It's a double conclusion. First of all, Hashta, now we are here. Next year, Mirta Hashem will all be Barat Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. Right now we are Avadim. Next year we'll be Bnei Chayrin. Which is it? Which is the focus? Which you want to end with the most powerful point? You want to end with the most, the biggest kicker? You want to end with the fact that we're in Golus versus Eretz Yisrael? Or do you want to end that we're Avodim b'nei cheret. What is the focus? What is the main idea of Ha Lachma Anya? The avdus l'cheros or the galus l'geula? And are we really avodim? Are we really avodim? Hashta avdei l'shana haba b'nei cheret. Are we really avodim? I understand back in Mitzrayim, then they were tremendously excited that a beautiful tefillah that Hashta Avdei. Right now we're eating the Korban Pesach and Pesach Mitzrayim. We're about to leave Hashta Avdei l'shana haba b'nei cheret. That's taka true. That's factual. However, Hashta Avdei, okay, we might feel, that we're avodim because we're trapped in our houses. We might feel like we're avodim because we're avodim to all the society around us. But at the end of the day, we're in the freest society, we're the freest people that ever existed in mankind. Can we really emistika say Hashta Avdei? And also, in and of itself, there's a contradiction, a stira minei uvei in the Ha Lachma Anya. It's not much a stira minei uvei. We say, Kol dichvin yeseh v'yechel. Anyone who wants, come and eat. I'm inviting in all the strangers. I'm inviting in all the guests. Anyone who wants is welcome to join my Pesach Seder. Then we also say, Kol ditzrich yeseh v'yifsach. Anyone who wants, come and join my Korban Pesach. We asked earlier, halachically, how can you do that? Very strange. But if we're making a Korban Pesach, the mashmos, the indication is that where are we? We're in Eretz Yisrael. Bizman Beis Mikdash Kayim. If we're making a Korban Pesach, al korchach, you have to say that the Beis Mikdash is there and we're bringing a Korban. Otherwise, what are we talking about a Korban Pesach for? So, Kol Disrich Yesiv Yitzchak, we're talking about when we have a Beis Mikdash, we're in Eretz Yisrael. And then, literally, the next line, Hashta Hachal Shana Haba B'Eretz Yisrael. Now we're in Galus, but next year we're going to have Geula being Eretz Yisrael. Mimanav Shach. Are we in Galus? Are we in Geula? Do we have Korban Pesach or do we not? Mamish Astira Minei Uvei. And in order to understand this, I really want to analyze and understand, because the mafteach that we'll see, Emir Hashem, to really get to the depth of the sugya, to understand everything going on in Ha Lachma Anya, is to understand the beginning. Pumped right at the beginning. Ha Lachma Anya. We uncover the matzahs and we say, these are the lechem oini. The achla avasana, the ara, the mitzray. This is the lechem oini. This is the time in the seder where we discuss lechem oini. Strange. Why lechem oini? Why are we focusing on the matzah as quote unquote the bread of affliction? Why don't you give a more pertinent, more strong indication? Lechem chiposing. This is the matzah that we left Mitzrayim. Indicate the fact, the miracle of the matzah. Not the oini shabo, right? The Ramban points out that in Mitzrayim they ate matzahs in order that they should have a full stomach, because we all know what happens when you eat a lot of matzah. It keeps you satiated. It mitigates hunger for a very long time. So Memela in Mitzrayim, they used to feed the avodim the matzah in order that they wouldn't have to feed them so often. Wonderful. Lechem oini. That's one reason that it's called lechem oini. Right? The Gemara tells us that it's lechem oini, that until you add spices, until you add in meats and juices, it remains bread of affliction. It's a poor bread. It's a very low level, poor man's food. Why are we focusing on that? We're here to celebrate Geula. We're here to celebrate Yitzia. We're here to celebrate. Why should we focus on the Lechem Oini? Not only that, to emphasize the question, the Rambam, in his Seder Haggadah, the Rambam points out, he adds in an extra line. The Rambam, before he starts Ha Lachma Anya, he says, B'behilu yatzanu mitzrayim. First of all, you should know we left Mitzrayim very quickly. We rushed out of there. Then Ha Lachma Anya d'ach l'avasana, or ki Ha Lachma Anya d'ach l'avasana, machlekes, kirsois, not for now. Either way, good to go. But the Rambam adds in, but Behilu, he adds in the fact that really we have to focus. We have to keep in mind that we left Mitzrayim very quickly. If that's the importance, so why are you discussing Lechem Oini? If the focus is on the fact that we got out of there quickly, So why do we then follow it up by discussing Lechem Anya? And we leave out this lashon of the Rambam. We leave out this line from the Rambam, and perhaps we can understand why is that? Why do we leave out this lashon of the Rambam? So in order to begin to answer the questions, let's get a little bit of a historical background, historical perspective of where Ha Lachma Anya comes from, what it's all about. Ha Lachma Anya is in Aramaic, very simply, the Rishonim point out, because it was the spoken language in Bavel. In other words, there's a machlokes as to who the author of the Haggadah was. It's unclear exactly who wrote the Haggadah. Some say Rabbi Ellman. There are other approaches in there. If you want a beautiful explanation, an exposition about the author of the Haggadah, the Malbim has a lengthy and beautiful explanation of who wrote the Haggadah. And he suggests that it was Rabbi Ellman or others from the Anshe Knesset Haggadah as well. However, the original text of the Haggadah did not have Ha Lachma Anya Bichlal. It wasn't there. In fact, in Rav Amram Goyen's Haggadah, it seems that Ha Lachma Anya was a description of the story that they said at the meal. It wasn't at this place in the Haggadah Bichlal. They went through all of Magid, Moitzi Matzah, Mara Korach, Shulchan Aruch, and then they went and said Ha Lachma Anya. Not like we have it all. The Rasag, Rav Sadia Goyen, from the time of the Gaonim, the Rasag is the first that has the seder similar to ours, with Ha Lachma Anya at the beginning of Magid. A little bit later, the Machzor Vitri and the Rambam, they also have the same similar seder Haggadah that we have with Ha Lachma Anya at the beginning. However, a beautiful nugget of information is that when they discovered the Genizos of the Haggadahs in Eretz Yisrael, they did not have Ha Lachma Anya Bichlal. In other words, the Gaonim were in Bavel. The Rishonim came from students of those Gaonim in Bavel. And at that point in Bavel, at some point between the end of the Amoraim and Machzor Vitri and Rashi, in that 400-year gap, some point in there, Ha Lachma Anya was inserted into the Haggadah. However, in Eretz Yisrael, they didn't have it. It didn't exist. They didn't make it there. Didn't make it there. Which is, in fact, very meduyik in the lashon of the Ha Lachma Anya. Hashta Hacha. We're not in Eretz Yisrael. We're in Bavel. That's why they emphasize that, perhaps. And if that's the case, that it was introduced when Klal Yisrael were living in Bavel, it's obvious, it makes a lot of sense why it's written in Aramaic. That was the spoken language. That was the vernacular. Everyone spoke Aramaic, and they wanted to make it clear. They wanted to say Ha Lachma Anya in a lashon shebnei adam medabrim bo, that everyone could understand it. There's a fascinating machlokes Rishonim, Achrayim, brought down in Shulchan Aruch, whether one should translate the entire Haggadah. Should one go out of his way to make sure that everyone understands all of the Haggadah? It's obviously very important that to Mivakayim Sibur Yetzias Mitzrayim in its optimal form, in its best way, you need for there to be a Havana. There has to be an understanding. Should one go line by line and translate or not? That's an interesting machlokes Rishonim. We're not going to get into the depths of that for now. But nonetheless, it seems very clear that they wanted, the Gaonim in Bavel wanted that people should at least understand this. They should at least have a Havana, Ha Lachma Anya, and therefore they went out of their way to say it specifically. In the Lashon HaMeduberes, they had specifically said it in the vernacular that people were speaking. Now, why did they start with Lechem Oini? Why did they start with Lechem Oini? Al derech Musar. In other words, you could talk about Lechem Chipazon like the Rambam, but V'hili Yotzanim Mitzrayim. Emphasize the fact that we left quickly. Why do we start by calling it Lechem Oini? So Moshe Sternbach Al derech Musar says an amazing idea, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful concept. He says you have guests at the seder, and they're already sitting down. Obviously, you invited them before Kiddush. You're not one of these, You're not late to the party. You're not late to the show. You make sure to invite people on time. And they're sitting at your table and they're feeling very strange and very weird. They look around the table and they see Lechem Anya, they see matzahs there. They seem very uncomfortable. Maybe when I was in the Mir, there was a great minig that Bachram would go to, if they ever wanted a meal, you knew you could go to Karl and Stollen, which is down the block. There's Stiebel down the block. You go to Karl and Stollen, you're guaranteed to get an invite. There's no shaila, no question about it. You could come without any prior invitations. You could go without telling anyone in advance, and you were guaranteed to get an invite. I know that many of my friends, myself included, were very nervous and concerned to go to Karl and Stollen because they were willing to mamish give you the last piece of chicken. They would make sure to be mechaber you to the nth degree that they were willing to give their own shirt off their back to you. So you have your guests sitting at the table and they see that there's lechem Anya, they see that there is only matzahs there. They feel a little out of place. They feel very strange. Comes along Chazal, or comes along the Gaonim, more appropriately, and he institutes Ha Lachma Anya to allay the fears of our poor guests. We tell them, don't worry, we're not poor. The poor bread that we have on the table is simply a remembrance to the days when we were in Mitzrayim. This is just a Zeicher Ba'alma. We have enough to feed. Be comfortable, be okay, don't worry. The reason I have matzah is not because I can't afford bread. It's because we want to remember what happened in Mitzrayim. To top it off, we tell him that he should not feel like a pauper at the rich homeowner's table. They were all slaves. Not only you, we're all slaves in Golis. Don't worry, together as one, we will all eventually be back in Eretz Yisrael. This is the sensitivity that the Gaonim were saying with Ha Lachma Anya, to make our guests feel comfortable, to make our guests feel welcome at our homes. It's absolutely beautiful and very pertinent Musar idea that we should very much keep in mind. However, what's the pshat? What's the pshat? The Maisa. Well, let's get down and dirty. What is it really saying here? Are we really avodim? Why nowadays, when there's no carbon Pesach, we're mentioning the carbon Pesach? Comes along the Rashbam in his Perish HaGodah, and he says, stop for a moment. He says, think historically, when was the only time in all of history that Kalal Yisrael were able to bring a carbon Pesach outside of Eretz Yisrael? Was it ever shaykh? We asked an internal contradiction. We said, come and bring the carbon Pesach. And the next line, we said, next year we'll be in Eretz Yisrael. Are we in Eretz Yisrael or are we not? If we're not in Eretz Yisrael, how are we bringing the carbon Pesach? Says the Rashbam, you forgot something. Way back when, many years ago, they were able to bring one carbon Pesach outside of Yerushalayim. What was that? A Pesach Mitzrayim. When they were leaving Mitzrayim, they brought a carbon Pesach. They didn't have a Beis HaMikdash. They weren't in Eretz Yisrael. And they were able to bring a carbon Pesach nonetheless. The night before we left Mitzrayim, on that night, we were able to have a carbon Pesach. And on that night, guess what? We were also Avodim. On that night, Taka, we were all Avodim. We hadn't left yet. Hashta Avdei, Lishona Habo B'nei Cheir, and hopefully by next year, we'll have left Mitzrayim. Hopefully by next year, we'll be in Eretz Yisrael. That was the plan, right? Immediately to go to Eretz Yisrael. Says the Rashbam, when we say Ha Lachma Anya, we are going back in history. We are going back 33 centuries to Yetzias Mitzrayim, awaiting Hashem's Geula. We're reenacting the Yetzia itself. And we're sitting down at our seder table and saying, Ha Lachma Anya, this is the bread of affliction specifically. Because we haven't left yet. We haven't had the Geula yet. But if that's the case, if we're reenacting history, so why do we go back to the Aramaic? Why don't we say it in Hebrew? Why don't we say it in Egyptian? We're Avodim in Egypt. Okay, Lo Shinu es Shemam, Lo Shinu es L'Shonim, so say it in Hebrew. That's what they spoke there. Why do we say it in Aramaic? Why do we care so much? Why are we so sensitive that people should have an understanding and appreciation for what's being spoken about here? In order to understand this more beautifully, I want to take a moment to elaborate upon the Netziv in his Perush on the Haggadah. The Netziv has an absolutely magnificent and amazing hezbollah of the Haggadah. Imri Shefer, it's kedai for everyone who has a moment to spend their time reading it. It's uplifting and enlightening. It's absolutely amazing. And then Netziv points out the following. The Netziv points out that there are tzvei dinim in lechem, oini, in matzahs. There's the matzah of reenacting, reliving Yitzias Mitzrayim, the lechem oini shabo, and there's the lechem chipazon, the experience of leaving. When we come to the seder night, when we come to Leil HaSeder, there's two chalokim to the seder. There's the first half and the second. There's the first half of the seder night where we reenact that we tackle our avodim, like the Rashbam says. Where we go back in history and we have to feel as we were once upon a time, the avodim themselves. And we're going to have the joy, we're going to have that amazing feeling of the Yitziyah, mi'afela li'oira, mishibu li'geula. But that hasn't happened yet. And at the beginning of the Seder, we leave out the Rambam's Lashon, but Behili Yotzanim Mitzrayim. Because at the beginning of the Seder, you know what our focus is? Our focus is the fact that we're avodim. Our focus is the fact that Hashem is about to take us out, hopefully. We haven't got there yet. And therefore, we focus on the Oini Shabbat. Says the Netziv, that's also why, halachically, the only time, according to one day in the Gemara, the only time that the matzah, maror, and Pesach were not joined together, as Hillel says, that we had matzah l'chud and Pesach l'chud, even according to Hillel, was b'Pesach Mitzrayim. Because the matzah of Pesach Mitzrayim was not a remembrance of Geula, but it was a remembrance of Golus. It was a reenactment of the Golus itself. And therefore, we couldn't join it together. We couldn't have the famous Hillel sandwich. We had to experience the Lechem Shabai, the Lechem Oini Shabai, in and of itself. Explains the Netziv, when we're discussing Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, there's a big nafkamina, a very essential difference ben hazman shebeis hamikdash kayim v'Yisrael yoshvim al admasam, from the time of remembering when we're in Eretz Yisrael with the Beis Hamikdash, the bein hazman hazeh Yisrael mefuzarim begolos be'eretz lo ilahem, while we're in Golos. Our experience is very dramatically and drastically different. When we experience, when we celebrate and commemorate Pesach with the Beis Hamikdash, our focus is the fact that we got to the Beis Hamikdash. Our focus is the Geula. Our focus is, like the Rambam introduces, B'Behili Yotzanim Mitzrayim. However, now we're in Golus. And despite the fact that many of us are living in Eretz Yisrael, and Hashem by all of us, despite that, L'maisa, there still is no Beis Hamikdash. Harabayis is still shoyming. Harabayis does not have the beauty of the Korban Pesach and all of Klal Yisrael being oila l'regel. And accordingly, our Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, Bizman Hazeh, is the fact that just like once upon a time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able, willing to remove us from Shibud Mitzrayim, we daven, we wish, we will, and we desire that we should reenact, not only to remember, but to do it again, to have a Geula Shleima b'meira v'yameina b'kara. So we start out Seder night by saying, Ha Lachma Anya, we are dying avodim, and it's in the vernacular. It's a Lashon HaMedaberetz, it's the language that everyone spoke, to say that our current matzav is just as bad as it was back then. We are a dying avodim, maybe not physically, Maybe not with bondage, but we are avodim in a different way. And we are waiting, we are mitzapel Yeshua. And our Seder night is a one long, beautiful tefillah of tzipisa liyoshua, that we should all be zeiche, hashta, hocha, l'shana haba, b'arad Yisrael, hashta avdei, l'shana haba, b'nei chayrin, let us all be zeiche, let us all daven, that it should be mekayim, b'karev, b'imheira, b'yameinu, amen.